1500 प्रीलोडेड गानों वाला कीपैड फोन धमाकेदार साउंड के साथ कारवा मोबाइल।
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge. This session is dedicated to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our spiritual master and the founder and acharya of the worldwide Hare Krishna movement. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manur Ikshvakave Bravi. The Blessed Lord said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivasvan, and Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakalineha mahata yogo nashtaf parantapa. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. So the concept that we discussed in the first chapter in the beginning, it is again reiterated here. This was the shloka that we had discussed. Evam parampara praptam. Before we even begin to understand or hear any spiritual subject matter, it is very important to understand this principle. The medicine should be taken as per the instructions on the label. So here Bhagavad Gita is describing how this knowledge should be received. Krishna explains, it is not that Arjuna, for the first time I am giving you this knowledge. Imam Vivasvate Yogam, this knowledge of yoga, connection of individual soul to the Supreme Soul. This science of yoga I had spoken to Vivasvan, the sun god, controller, the predominating deity of sun planet. And Vivasvan spoke to Manu, his son. Manu spoke to his son Ikshvaku. In this way, in this succession, the knowledge came down. Evam parampara praptam. Many times people ask us, so can you please explain what is your interpretation of Bhagavad Gita? So we explain, no, we do not explain our interpretation. We explain the meaning as it is. People are very fond of interpreting the Vedas, and thus there is so much of chaos and confusion. People ask, just see this Bhagavad Gita, this has got one meaning, another Bhagavad Gita, another meaning. Everybody has given his or her own interpretation. E is equal to mc square, we have read in basic sciences. Now if somebody gives interpretation, E means elephant, M means monkey, C means cat, then what is the use? Then you have spoiled the formula, you will not be able to arrive to any proper understanding. You please ask from the person who has given the formula, or in his succession, his disciple. In this way we can understand perfect meaning. E is energy, M is mass, C is velocity of light. And then you get perfect knowledge. So actually, how somebody can interpret? You have to take it from the creator as it is, the real meaning. The moment you interpret it, that means it is your understanding. And what is the use of our understanding? 7 billion people can have 7 billion interpretations. So the correct meaning is understood from the creator, from the original speaker. The original speaker is Lord Krishna. as we read in previous chapter. Brahma Akshara Samudbhavam. The Vedas have got its origin in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahma Akshara Samudbhavam. It is not created by any human being. So from the Creator or in Creator's disciplic succession chain of spiritual masters and disciples, this knowledge can be understood. So before we understand this subject matter from anybody, we should kindly ask, can you please explain what is your parampara, in which succession do you belong? Unfortunately, 99.9% of the versions of Bhagavad Gita that we have, they are all spoilt interpretations. Of course, we have many in the Sanskrit language, but that is not widely known now. There are Sanskrit commentaries, right explanations by Sridhar Swami, by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Baldev Vidyabhushan, Jeev Goswami. But unfortunately, people are Sripad Ramanujacharya. And in all these different bona fide explanations, you will not find any contradiction. The moment there is contradiction, it means one of them is wrong. So thus we should be careful. Otherwise, we will be spending a lot of time. Instead of coming to right conclusion, we may end up having a wrong understanding of God. Sa evayam maya tedya yogav proktav puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam yetaduttamam. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend. Therefore, you can understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So Krishna gives here the qualification of understanding Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is not telling a karmi can understand, or a jnani can understand, or Ashtang yogi can understand. Krishna is telling, Bhakto asi me sakha cheti. You are my bhakta, my devotee and my friend. So rahasyam, I am speaking to you this great secret, because only a devotee can understand. A lover of God who has got relationship can understand. If you want to know about a person, then we have to have relationship with that person. So thus, Bhagavad Gita is the science of God and the infinitesimal living entities who are part and parcels of God, their relationship. So a person he must have a relationship. Then one can understand this mystery. Otherwise, if there is no devotion, if there is no relationship, a person can become well versed in memorizing all the Vedas. He can argue philosophically, but he will not be able to get the mystery of the secret. Arjuna uvacha aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvataha kathame tad vijaniyam tvam adau proktavaniti. Arjuna said, the sun god Vivasvan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? So this is very interesting question. Krishna explains, I spoke this to sun god. Now sun planet is very old. So how old would be the predominating deity, controller of sun? So Arjuna and Krishna were contemporaries. They were friends and also they were cousins. And Arjuna is telling how to understand that you spoke to sun god. It is just like if any person today tells, now I am speaking to you this knowledge which I spoke to Abraham Lincoln or which I spoke to Alexander. So one may ask, oh, Alexander came long ago, and how come you were living that time? Same question Arjuna is asking, that we are contemporaries, Krishna. Param Janma Vivasvataha, Vivasvan, the sun god is very, very old. So how could you speak knowledge to him? Now Krishna gives, how is it possible that Krishna has spoken this knowledge to sun god? Shri Bhagavan Vacha Bahuni me vyatitani Janmani tavacha Arjuna Tanyaham Veda Sarvani Natvam Vetha Parantapa. The blessed Lord said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. This is the difference between Jiva, the infinitesimal spark, small living entity, all of us, and God. We keep on changing our bodies like dresses we have seen in the second chapter. But as soon as we change the body, we forget everything of the past life. As we enter into a dream body, we forget what is happening with this body, situation of this body. And when we come out of the dream, we forget what has happened to the dream. In the dream, if we wake up in the middle, sometimes we do remember. In a similar fashion, with the change of bodies, we keep on forgetting all our relationships. So every life is compared to a dream. Dream, it appears to be real. We are talking to people who appear to be real, but everything dissolves when we wake up. Similarly, now we are talking to some people. We may become very rich, affluent, or we may remain poor and not very well known, but it does not matter because this thing is going to vanish as soon as we leave this body. Thus, this life is just like a dream. So this body exists, this temporary covering upon us, but in effect, it is just like a dream. A reality which is temporary. As soon as we give up body, everything is forgotten. In previous life, we had parents, children, relatives, friends, enemies. We have forgotten all of them. We were criticized, we were blasphemed. We have forgotten all of it. But Krishna does not forget because he does not change the body, as we have discussed. Dehi deha vibhedoyam neshware vidyate kvachit. There is no difference between the body and soul of Krishna. Krishna retains the same body. Thus, he does not forget. So, it is not that Krishna was an ordinary human being, as some people tell, and he was praised so much that people started believing he is God. No, here he is explaining the position. He had perfect knowledge of spiritual life long, long ago, and he spoke that knowledge to Vivaswan, who is millions of years elder to Arjuna. So thus Krishna now begins to reveal his personality. Who is Krishna actually? He has given some hints in the previous chapters. Now again very clearly he'll explain. Don't think I am an ordinary personality who is of the same age as you and taken birth along with you. Ajopi sannavyayatma bhutanamishvaropi san prakritim swamadhisthaya sambhavami atma mayaya. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all the sentient beings, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So Krishna gives unique features of his personality. The first word Krishna uses here is Aja. Aja means I am unborn. Unborn takes birth. This is explained about Krishna in the prayers of Queen Kunti and in various places throughout the Vedic literatures. So people are confused why Krishna appears then. That Krishna explains in the next two verses. Some people tell Krishna has appeared in order to relieve the burden of the miscreants. Others tell he appeared to fulfill the wishes of his parents Vasudeva and Devaki, who wanted to have God as their child. Others they tell he was simply pleased with the Yadu dynasty, who were great devotees. In order to glorify the family, Krishna appeared over there. So like this, various people give various reasons for Krishna's appearance. But the most important thing to understand is Krishna does not take birth. Krishna is Aja, Krishna is unborn. And Avyayatma, another word which is important here is Krishna's body does not perish. So Krishna is having body which is eternal. There is no birth and there is no death. Bhutanam Ishvaropi San. Bhutana means the living entities or anything which is there in the material world, all the material ingredients. And Krishna is telling Ishvaraha, everybody is Ishvara. Ishvara means controller. We can control this body. We can control few people around us. But here Krishna is telling, I am the controller of Bhutanam, of all the created beings and the matter existing in this world. I am the Lord of all matter and the conditioned living entities here in this world. Prakritim swam adhishthaya sambhavami atma maya. Then how do we understand that Krishna took birth? We all know. He appeared in a prison house of Kansa and he appeared from the womb of Devaki. That is why Krishna tells here, we will see, one who understands the nature of my birth and activities, he will become liberated. It is a great science. We have studied the science of birth of common living entities like us. Male and female gametes fuse and emulsification happens, embryo develops, and then we know the sciences very nicely, X chromosome, Y chromosome, and so many things we have defined. And this is how we take birth. This is a science. Birth is a science. Similarly, Krishna's birth is also great science. If we understand this science, it does not have much impact in our life. Anyway, male and female will be attracted to each other, births will keep on happening. But if we understand the science of appearance of Krishna, there will be no more miserable birth for us. We will be liberated in our spiritual life. So this science is very important to be understood. And this science is explained in Shrimad Bhagwatam. Once we finish Bhagavad Gita, we should aspire to reach Shrimad Bhagwatam. Bhagavad Gita is ABCD of spiritual life. And Bhagavatam is postgraduate study. So in Shrimad Bhagwatam it is mentioned how Krishna took birth. Krishna appeared in the heart of Vasudeva. From the heart of Vasudeva, Krishna got transferred to the heart of Devaki. From there, Krishna entered the womb of Devaki, and then he came out in his four-handed form, Narayan form, having conch shell, club, discs, all the ornaments, dress in his body, very nice helmet with grown-up hairs in complete beauty and opulence. Because Krishna wanted to show them that if he appeared in two-handed form, they would have thought, oh, another ordinary baby has appeared like sis have appeared before. No, Krishna told, I have come in this form because you prayed to me in this four-handed form. Thus see, I am God, I am having four hands, and just to satisfy your desires, I have appeared now. And then Devaki requests, you please come in two-handed form as an ordinary child. So this is how Krishna took birth. It was not by any biological process, but it was a spiritual process. And we also have heard that Krishna also died. How do we understand that? The word used here is avyayatma. So this is a drama. Just like we see on the theater, drama happens and a person appears to be dead. He's only acting. He's lying still on the stage because it is a part of his or her role. In a similar fashion, Krishna has created so many bodies. Krishna is the cause of maintenance of the bodies, and Krishna destroys also so many bodies. So he can create and leave one more body. What is the loss for Krishna? How is it difficult? So Krishna leaves one body which appears like the form of Krishna in this world, and people think, oh, Krishna is dead. No, Krishna is not dead. He has left a form which appears exactly like his spiritual form to befool us. So Krishna is very, very kind. As we will see, Krishna tells, Ye yathamam prapadyante. As people surrender unto me, as they approach me, so do I reciprocate. So some people who want to become atheists, they do not want to believe in God. Krishna creates such a situation that they have firm belief, no, Krishna is not God. See, he also died. And those who want to understand the science of Krishna, then Krishna reveals that science also. So if we want to become atheist, Krishna will give us logic how to become atheist. If you want to understand God, again Krishna will guide. Krishna is a loving father who simply satisfies whatever desires we have. But the important point is, which desire is beneficial for us, that also we need to understand from Krishna. And if we desire that, then we will be happy. So Krishna is Ajaha, Krishna is Avyayatma, Krishna is eternal. Just like ordinary yogis also, sometimes they can just become visible, and they become invisible. So when an ordinary yogi can do that, why Krishna, a Yogeshwara, cannot do that? So Krishna does not take birth, Krishna appears. Thus we call appearance day of Krishna or disappearance day. We don't call birth and death. Now second line is also very important, where Krishna mentions Prakritim Swam Adhishtaya. So there are two segments in the existence, Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha means the enjoyer, Prakriti means the enjoyed. Purusha means the energetic and Prakriti means the energy. Energy is controlled by the enjoyer for his pleasure. So Krishna has got, broadly speaking, two categories of energies, Prakriti. Antarang Prakriti, internal potency, and external potency. So here Krishna is telling Prakritim Swam Adhishtaya. Although this material world is separated energy of Krishna, and Krishna does not directly see the events here. He has appointed various demigods, and the topmost controlling deity is Durga of this material world, where the living entities who want to compete with God, who want to enjoy independent of God, they are given residence here. But other living entities who simply want to serve God in loving relationship, for them there is another existence that is called Sanatan Dham or Vaikuntha Dham, the kingdom of God. And there Krishna maintains them in their own internal potency. How do we understand internal and external? Just like cow's blood is there, that is internal energy of cow, and same blood is transformed into milk and the milk comes out of cow. So that milk is also energy of cow, but it is separated now. In a similar fashion, everything is energy of Krishna. And when certain portion of energy is separated from Krishna, where Krishna is not visible, for the living entities who want to enjoy independently, that is called external potency of Krishna. So all of us have taken these forms which are created by external potency, Durga. But Krishna is explaining, although I appear in this world, my appearance is not like ordinary living entities. I do not take any form created by external potency, but I exhibit myself in my internal potency, my personal energy. That is called Prakritim Swam. Atma Mayaya. Maya again means energy. Atma Maya means my internal energy. I appear by my internal energy. We appear in this world, we are also spirit souls, but we appear by external energy. This form is made of external energy. And if this form we leave, then we become invisible as spirit souls. Again, we take another form. But when Krishna comes here, Krishna's form is not made up of matter. Krishna's form is made up of spirit. There is no difference between Krishna and Krishna's form. It is complete spirit. That is what Krishna explains here. Because I do not take any material bodies, there is no question of birth and death for me. My form is completely made up of spirit. Now one may ask why Krishna appears. Krishna is the supreme controller. He is controlling everyone. What is the need of God to appear in this world? That Krishna answers now. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam dharmasya tadatmanam srajamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. In order to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I advent myself millennium after millennium. So Krishna is explaining the reason for his appearance. Krishna explains, Dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Whenever there is decline in the religious practice in the dharma, I advent myself to re-establish the principles of Dharma. So people want to understand everything from Bhagavad Gita. They want to understand how to increase productivity. They want to understand management skills. Some people understand chemistry and whatnot from Bhagavad Gita. But they don't want to understand from Bhagavad Gita the reason why Krishna spoke this Gita. And Krishna spoke this Gita to explain to us Dharma. What is this Dharma? Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The scientific codes given to us so that we can come back, revive our spiritual position, we can come back to spiritual status. That is called Dharma. Now we are hallucinating that I am the body, and then we are getting carried away by the desires of the body which are not my desires. If I don't fulfill, I am frustrated. If I fulfill, still there is frustration because I am different from the body. There is no satisfaction. So unless person realizes I am not the body, person will keep on laughing, crying, aspiring in this hallucination. So to give this most important knowledge, as a person in dream is convinced he is the body of dream, similarly we are convinced that we are the body, but Krishna explains you are not the body. Why you are taking birth and dying? Understand this and follow this dharma in your life. So whenever there is decline in such religious practice, Krishna comes here. And unfortunately, many people in our country, they take advantage of the simplicity of the people and the piety of the people. People here, they have natural tendency of hearing about God, believing in God. So every other person has started claiming, I am also incarnation, I am that God, I am Krishna, I have come again. As they say, India is a factory of producing gods. In factory, they produce in bulk. So what is produced in bulk in India? So we may be lagging behind in electronics and other gadgets, but we don't lag behind in most important produce, and that is God. We produce God only indirectly. So this is a great cheating. Every other person is claiming I am God. So we have to understand the scriptures, unfortunately, because there is no knowledge of the scriptures. So people believe also. So in order to understand who is God, we should go to the scriptures. Scriptures define who is God, when God is going to appear. Lord has got a scheduled time to appear. He does not appear. He can appear just like that, but he still follows the Vedic injunctions. He is free to come, but still he has a fixed time to come. And when Krishna would appear, that is already described. Krishna appears in the Dwapar Yuga of 27th Mahayuga of the 7th Manu. There are 14 Manus in one Kalpa, one day of Brahma. In this way, very precise date is given. At this time, Krishna is going to appear. Similarly, Lord Buddha is another incarnation. And if you read Shrimad Bhagwatam, which was written 5000 years ago, Shrimad Bhagwatam is predicting Buddha Nam Nanjana Suto Ki Kateshu Bhavishyati. A person by the Buddha will appear in this Gaya province. Anjana Sutta, his mother's name will be Anjana. And like this very beautiful description is there. Muhyanti Surat Dvisham. He will bewilder the atheistic people from the path of Vedas, because people were killing animals viciously. And they were quoting Vedic authority in Vedas. That is, so Vedas don't recommend to kill animals, but people misunderstood it. So that is why the only solution was to make them atheist disbeliever of Vedas, so that they can stop this animal killing. Thus Krishna had to come. First he comes to establish the Vedas, and then he comes to again remove Vedic authority. So all these are various wonderful activities of Krishna. And then there is prediction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Paurnamasyam Fagunasya Faguni Rakshayogataha. Exact date is also mentioned. On this day of the month, in this season, Lord Chaitanya will appear. Mayapure Navadvipe Swarnadi Tiram Asthaya. He will appear in a place which is Mayapur Navadvip and on the bank of the river Ganges. Shachi Garbhe Purandarat. His mother's name will be Shachi. Father's name will be Purandar Mishra. So mother's name is mentioned, father's name is mentioned, on the bank of Ganges, Navadvip, on this day of this month. Everything is very beautifully mentioned. Bhakti Yoga Pradhanaya Lokas Anugrahaya Cha. Out of great mercy for people, he will spread Bhakti Yoga. Sannyas Rupa Masthaya Krishna Chaitanya Namadhrik. He will take sannyas, and after sannyas his name would be Krishna Chaitanya. How beautifully, in great detail it is mentioned in the Vedas. This is called Vedic knowledge. Perfect explanation of past and perfect prediction of future also. So God's appearance, father's name of God, mother's name of God, the place of appearance, activities, everything is very beautifully and exactly defined in the Vedas. So if anybody tells I am God, we should ask Vedic reference, otherwise we cannot believe on anybody. And apart from this, they have some special symbols on the soles of their feet. So there are very unique signs like fish, flag, and conch. Like this, so many symbols are there on the feet of Krishna or the incarnations. So if anybody claims I am incarnation, you please check his soles. Are there some special signs? All these nice Vedic descriptions are there. And then they should perform some extraordinary activity. Krishna lifted mountain Govardhan. Krishna danced on the hood of very huge snake which was having many hoods. So can you dance on the hood of a simple python? No. And you are claiming that you are God? Can you lift even a small stone of 50 kgs? And Krishna lifted such a big mountain. Like this, so many extraordinary activities Krishna did. Lord Ramchandra did. What have you done? So we should not get carried away by such claim of incarnations. We should understand from the Vedas what are the incarnations, what is their father's name, mother's name. Then there will be no confusion and no cheating. And unfortunately, these so-called incarnations, they give the teachings which are contradictory to the instructions in Bhagavad Gita. They take advantage because nobody reads Gita now, let me speak anything. So Krishna does not tell I spoke some knowledge to Vivaswan, now it is revised, edited and enlarged edition I am speaking to you. No. Knowledge is always perfect. Same knowledge Krishna tells, Sa evayam mayate adya. Now I am going to speak to you. Because the original knowledge got lost. So interpretations came up even during Arjuna's time. Bhagavad Gita was present, but wrong interpretations came up. So Krishna wanted to re-establish. So that is why Krishna is telling today, original meaning I am going to establish again by speaking it to you. So we should not get cheated. We should read the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita. Then we will understand who is God, who is incarnation. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvataha yaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. This is what we discussed. Krishna explains, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So Divya means transcendental. As we discussed, Krishna does not come by material, biological process, but he appears by transcendental mechanism, which means Divya. Janma karma chame divyam. Our activities are strictly controlled by Rajoguna, Satvaguna, Tamoguna. There are three energies which control everything, whatever is happening in this material world. But Krishna is not controlled by the three energies. Krishna is Divya, means beyond the three energies, completely spiritual. So Krishna's activities are not controlled by nature. Krishna's activities are completely conducted in his own energy, spiritual energy. Janma and karma both. Evam yoveti tatvata. If a person scientifically, tatvata, in truth, is able to understand, then tyaktva deham, after leaving this body, punarjanma nayeti. There is no more repeated birth. Oh, so does it mean it is suicidal to understand the science of Krishna's birth and activities? I will not exist, enjoy anymore. No, Krishna is telling, tyaktva deham punarjanma nayeti. He does not take any more birth, but Mameti, he comes to me, comes to live with me. So the spirit soul, as long as it is present in this body, it develops a material form upon itself. Just like when we go to some other planet which is not favorable for our life, sustenance, then we take up a space suit. In a similar fashion, the living entity, which is completely spiritual, if it is not in the spiritual atmosphere, Vaikuntha, Sanatan Dham, if it is there in the material world, it takes up this external dress. But when it is established in the spiritual place where Krishna lives, then it manifests into a spiritual form without any external dress. So Krishna tells Mam Eti, no, don't think you will die. All your senses will be there. You can see, you can talk, you can walk, you can laugh. But all these activities will be conducted in your spiritual body, which you develop when Mam Eti, when you come to me. So next question can be how we can understand. Oh, let me understand then. I have studied so much of science. Let me understand the Divya science, transcendental science also, so that I can stop this repeated birth and death, enjoy my permanent life with Krishna. So how we can do that? Krishna explains. Gives a hint. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashritaha bahavo jnana tapasa uta madbhava magataha. Bhavam means nature. Swabhav means one's own nature. Madbhavam means Krishna's nature. So one attains Krishna's nature. Krishna's body is Satchidananda, full of all knowledge, full of eternity, there is no death, and full of bliss. We also attain a body which is eternal, having complete knowledge and bliss. And Madbhava means Krishna's spiritual abode, which is of the same nature as that of Krishna, which is eternal, which is not destroyed, full of knowledge and bliss. So Madbhava Magata means we attain the spiritual nature. We attain body of Krishna's nature. And Madbhavam also means, Bhava means emotional love. That is a perfection of spiritual life. So how one can attain Krishna's abode or love for Krishna? It is one and the same thing. Only those people who develop this very strong love for Krishna, they transfer themselves to the abode of Krishna. So how this platform is attained? Krishna's planet or love for Krishna? Vitaraga bhaya krodha. One has to become free from rag, bhaya and krodha. Rag means attachment. So we are very much attached to this material world. And in this attachment, as a child, if he is very much attached to play sports or games, he will not be interested in studies. If he is very much interested in virtual reality, he might take less interest in reality. In a similar fashion, if we are very much attached to this material world, it is not possible for us to take interest in spiritual life. So one has to become free from the material attachment, rag. So some people are there who are disgusted with material life. After so many attempts to enjoy, they understand there is only frustration in the end what we get. There is no satisfaction. Even though I am a perfectly successful person, as per the definition of this world, but that success does not satisfy me. Then they become fearful of this material existence. And then they don't want to continue. They want moksha. Moksha means they want to merge into the spiritual energy of Krishna. So one has to become free from this fear also if a person has to go to Krishna. So if you want to merge into the energy of Krishna or Krishna's body, Krishna can accept that. And okay, you come and merge as a small spark in the spiritual energy. But that position will not satisfy us because we are part and parcel of Krishna, children of Krishna. We have the same nature as that of Krishna. Krishna has given us senses because we have tendency of enjoying our senses. But the problem is we are enjoying in this material world. Example in the Vedas given is, if a person is sick. Now if you tell a sick person to eat food, he will vomit. He has no taste for food. He cannot digest. So, and if you tell, let us go and play football, he cannot play. He cannot even walk. He is always lying in the bed. So to a sick man, if you tell him, if you become fit, then we will run around in the field, we'll play, we'll do sporting, and we will eat so many nice things. For him, running around means miserable activity. He cannot do that. Eating means very bitter. He feels like puking out. So it is no. Then I don't want to become fit. I have to eat. No eating in sickness. is miserable, but eating in a healthy life is very desirable. Similarly, existence is not bad, but existence in material world is full of frustration, dissatisfaction and anxieties. But some people who are not having knowledge of spiritual abode, kingdom of God, they think this material world is all in all. Everywhere there is birth and death. Just like if a person is born in Hiroshima, Nagasaki, where there is so much of nuclear radiation, every person would be born crippled. And some people who are born diseased, like the most famous scientist of our times, he attempted many suicides because of some disease which he acquired. If a person thinks, oh, birth here means disease, I don't want to live, no, you are born in a wrong place. So we should not understand every planet has got same life as we have on this planet. There are many planets Vedas describe where living standard is much better than that of Earth planet. And there are planets where life itself is eternal, where there is no problem at all. So we should not desire simply merging into Jyoti, Brahma Jyoti or Moksha. Spiritual life is beyond moksha. That is why it is told, Bhakti Moksha Laghuttakrit. Moksha means simply coming out of jail, freedom. But unless a person goes and meets with his family and starts positive life, then a person may feel, oh, in jail at least I had few friends. Let me go back again to the jail. So thus, moksha will not satisfy us. Bhakti, loving service of Krishna, moksha laghuttakrit, it makes moksha insignificant. Mukti, mukulitanjalir sevate asman. So, for the devotees, mukti, it's standing with folded hands. Please accept me in your service. But bhakta devotee is already liberated. He is not at all affected by any energy's disturbance of this material world. So, mukti is always ready with folded hands to, it is praying to devotee, please accept me in your service. But devotee does not bother. He is already liberated. So one should be free from material attachment, one should be free from existence of personality, and one should be free from krodha, anger also. Some people get completely bewildered by different philosophies. What is right? This philosophy is correct, that philosophy is correct, this philosophy tells world is coming from a person, this philosophy is telling world is coming from energy, this philosophy is telling XYZ, and they get so totally confused, they tell nobody knows anything. And everything is zero, everything is void. There is no purpose, there is no controller. And such people, either they become voidist, or these people, they take to intoxicants and they become very tamasic. So one should avoid all these things. One should avoid attachment to material world. One should avoid fear of spiritual life. One should avoid anger resulting from confusion in understanding what is reality of life. When a person is free from rag, bhaya, krodha, attachment, fear and anger, then a person can understand knowledge. Bahavo jnana tapasa puta mad bhava magata. So how a person can become free from these things? Manmaya mamupashritaha, by taking shelter of Krishna. Manmaya. Manmaya means mat maya. Mat means me. Maya means full of. If something is swarnamaya, means it is covered in gold. Mat maya means a person is completely absorbed in Krishna. So when a person is completely absorbed in Krishna, and mam upashritaha, when one takes shelter of Krishna, bahavo jnana tapasa puta, then one becomes purified by virtue of jnana and tapasa, knowledge and austerity. So knowledge is very important. When a person has knowledge, what is the aim of this life, then a person automatically takes up all the discomforts which are called tapaha, tapasya. Human life is meant for tapasya. The scriptures mention voluntarily acceptance of discomforts. We need to have such tapasya for any material achievement also. Voluntarily accepting of discomfort is very important. So scientific discomforts have to be taken for advancement in the knowledge of spiritual life. So when people have spiritual knowledge and they do tapasya, when they are completely absorbed in Krishna and they take shelter of Krishna, then they become free from rag, bhaya and krodha. And then they are able to understand the science of birth and activities of Krishna, and they are able to go to Krishna. ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham mam vartmanuvartante manushyaः partha sarvashah. All of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. Everybody has to do prapadyante, surrender to Krishna. But in which way a person is surrendering, that defines the reciprocation of Krishna and the result that the living entity is going to attain. There are some people who directly surrender to Krishna, they are called spiritualists, and some people indirectly surrender to Krishna, they are called materialists. What is the meaning of this direct and indirect surrender? Just like most of us, we are law-abiding citizens. We directly follow the instructions, rules and regulations of government. Those people who disobey, they are put into jail. In jail also, they have to surrender to government only. But such surrender is not very pleasant, and it restricts their enjoyment and freedom. So everyone has to surrender to God. If we don't follow the laws of Lord very nicely, then we are given birth in this material world. And then birth, death, old age, disease, hard work, anxiety, lamentation, all these things follow us and our life becomes very, very miserable. So in jail also there are some pleasures. In jail also people play some sports. They play cricket, they play badminton, they get sometimes some newspapers. Sometimes there is feast also in jail. And if a person thinks, oh, this life is very nice, then he's foolish. He does not know what does he deserve. In a similar fashion, if somebody is satisfied with whatever little happiness he gets in this world full of miseries, that is not intelligence. But still, ye yathamam prapadyante. As a person, if a person wants to remain in material world, I guide him. Okay, you remain in material world. And if a person wants to advance in spiritual life, then again I guide. But everyone, mam vartamanu vartante, everyone follows my path. Everyone follows the dictates of Krishna and everybody is approaching Krishna only. Materialist does not know that I want Krishna. And the spiritualist know what I want is actually Krishna in my life. Now among the spiritualists also, there are three categories. There are Jnanis, Yogis and Bhaktas. So they are attracted to different aspects of the absolute truth. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yaj jnanam advayam. They are all called tattvavida, the knowers of absolute truth. They are not attracted by the false presentation of material world. They are attracted towards truth. But the truth is understood in three phases. Which are these three phases? They are called Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagwan. There is no difference at all. It is Advaya Gyan. It is one and the same thing, Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagwan. But it depends upon the perspective, the outlook of the transcendentalist. The example given in the Shastras is that of mountain. If we see mountain from a distance, it appears hazy like a cloud. We are seeing mountain only, and if you ask what is mountain like, you will tell, oh, it is just like a cloud. This is called Brahma aspect of Krishna. Krishna is spread everywhere in the form of his energy, just like the sun is spread everywhere in the form of sunlight. But if a person thinks sun means only light, that is ignorance. Sun means sun globe, and the light which is emanating, it is also part of sun, but still sun planet is different. One cannot tell sun means only sunlight. Sunlight is also sun, but sun is not just sunlight. In a similar fashion, the cloud-like appearance of mountain, he is seeing mountain only, but that is not the complete vision of the mountain. Then, the yogis, they want to realize the personality of Godhead's form which is present in all the hearts. They want to realize the presence of God within the heart. Just like we can realize the presence of sun. If we go out, if we are just looking from the window, we might see only sunlight. If we little go out, we might see sun in the sky. And although sun has not come to our place, but still we can see sun from our place. In a similar fashion, although the God is situated far, far away in his own abode, still God is reflected, he is present in all of our hearts in this material world. So when a person is able to realize the presence of God in the heart, it is like approaching closer to the mountain. A person can see clear boundary of the mountains, and a person can see some trees over there. And when a person advances further, then he is able to see, oh, there are so many species, there is so much life here. There are animals, there are human beings, there are societies, there are huts, houses. And in this way he realizes the exact understanding of the mountain. So all the three cases, the description of mountain is correct. Mountain is also like a cloud from a distance. Mountain is having some clear boundary. And mountain is also having so many living entities. All these descriptions are correct. In a similar fashion, God is present in our heart, that is correct. God is present everywhere as energy, that is correct. But the perfect understanding of God is that this God who is reflected in our hearts and who is present everywhere, these aspects of God are dependent upon his personality aspect, personal aspect, and that is called Bhagavan, person who is full of 6 opulences. So if a person wants to get merged into the Jyoti of Krishna, Krishna will guide accordingly. Tam tathaiva bhajamiham. If a person wants to realize the presence of Krishna within the heart, wants to merge into the body of Krishna, Krishna will sanction that also. And if somebody wants to become a devotee, engage in personal loving relationship with Krishna, Krishna will guide him accordingly. Whatever we desire, Krishna reciprocates. But we need to know what is best desire for us. That Krishna has revealed in the past, and Krishna will even more directly and clearly explain as the chapters progress. Kangshata karmanam siddhim yajanta iha devataah Kshipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. Men in this world desire success in fruitive activities and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from the fruitive work in this world. So people want immediate solution. I am sick, please put a wet towel on my head. You may get immediate relief. And if you take medicine, take the pain of approaching a doctor, then you will get permanent relief. But people don't want to follow the permanent solution. So thus they approach devatas. And Krishna is telling here, Kshipram hi manushe loke siddhir. They get immediate result. If you worship any Devi Devata here, demigods, goddesses, you get quick results. So thus people desist following Krishna consciousness because the results, permanent results, may take more time and they want immediate results. Thus Krishna is telling mainly people, they approach demigods here for quick fulfillment of their desires. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam Gunakarma vibhagashaha Tasya kartaram api mam Vidhi akartaram avyayam. According to the 3 modes of material nature and the work ascribed to them, the 4 divisions of human society were created by me. And although I am the creator of the system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer being unchangeable. Democracy was conceived by somebody, communism was conceived by somebody, capitalism was conceived by somebody. Who has conceived this Varnashrama? Chaturvarnyam. Who has conceived Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra? Why these divisions are there in the society? One may ask. And various ideologies, various yoga systems, they have their origins in some sages or the incarnations of Lord. Lord Kapila explained the system of Sankhya Yoga. Later, another impostor Kapila propounded similar philosophy. Then Yoga Sutras are given by Patanjali. There is Karma Mimamsa by Jaimini. There is Vedanta philosophy by Vedvyas. There are various Nyaya, logic teachers also. And they are led by Kanad and Gautam. But who has created this philosophy, this way of living of Varnashrama system, which is practiced by so many people, and the remnants of that, perverted form of that in the form of caste system is still prevalent today? Who has created this system? Why nobody is claiming that I have created? Why in history we don't find anything? Yes, we will not find because it is coming from God, from the beginning of creation. Chatur Varnyam Maya Srishtam. So what is the basis? The aim is understanding the purpose of this existence. The purpose is Asatoma Satgamaya, Tamsoma Jyotirgamaya. Sattvagun, Rajogun and Tamogun. These three energies, as we discussed, control all of us. Those living entities who are predominantly in Tamoguna, mode of ignorance, are called Shudras. Those who are having mix of Rajoguna and Tamoguna, they are called Vaishya or productive class. Shudra means working class. Then those who are having predominantly mode of passion, Rajoguna, they are called Kshatriyas, the warrior or administrative class. And those who are in Sattvaguna, they are called Brahmanas, the priestly class or the educators. So everybody is encouraged to become Brahmana. Because Brahma Janati iti Brahmana, spiritual realization is the aim of life, and unless a person becomes Brahmana, he becomes very sattvic. There is no question of coming to spiritual platform, and there is no question of understanding God. But it takes a long time usually. So over many lifetimes, when a person follows the rules and regulations nicely, gradually from Shudra they can eventually get the body of a Brahmana. If somebody is serious, they can execute in the same life also, and they are encouraged to do so, but may not be easy. So this caste system, what we see today, this is not the Varnashrama system. As we have discussed before also, Krishna has mentioned clearly, Guna Karma Vibhagashaha, as per the qualities and as per actions. If anybody, now also we see in society, divisions are there, divisions are required. Somebody is engineer, doctor, somebody is a defense personnel, basis their qualification and their actions. Similarly, if a person is having qualifications of mind control, sense control, always trustful, always clean, very forgiving, having great knowledge of the Vedas, such a person is called Brahmana. If a person is having great chivalrous skills, administrative skills, then such a person is called a Kshatriya. Some people who have got the tendency to produce food grains and do business, productive class, make money, they are called Vaishyas. Some people who are simply satisfied doing the job, they are called Shudras. So divisions are basis, qualities and actions. So it is unfortunate, perverted system what we see today. It was never basis hereditary caste. It was basis guna and karma, qualities and actions. And as per these varnas, they are supposed to follow the ashramas. The Shudra does not have much qualification, so for him only Grahasthashram is recommended. Vaishya is more qualified, for him Brahmacharya ashram is also required. Vaishya should go to schools and take education. Shudras are not interested in taking education, and if at all they take, they may misuse the education. Thus, schools are not meant for Shudras, just like now it is happening. People are Shudras and they take education, they commit big blunders and scams, and the whole humanity suffers. So if a Shudra is given education, disaster he will create, big scams and all these things will happen. So Shudra, just they are allowed to have Grahasthashram, no education. Vaishya, business class, mercantile community, they go to schools, Gurukul, and then they are allowed to go till Grahasthashram. Kshatriya, they are allowed to go and recommended to go till Vanaprasthashram. And only Brahmana is allowed to take sannyas, perfect renunciation, detachment from material world. Others, even though they get little dissatisfied with material world, renunciation is not allowed, because the nature of the body will not allow them to continue like that. So thus it is a very scientific system for gradual promotion to that of gross ignorance to platform of complete knowledge, and eventually developing love for God. Namam karmani limpanti name karma phale spriha iti mam yobhijanati karma bhirna sabadhyate. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. So one should not fall for some criticism of Krishna, that Krishna did so much of violence, as some people, some philosophies they tell, that Krishna, yes, he was a good man, we will worship him once he becomes purified. Now Krishna is suffering for his misdeeds in hell. Once he comes out, then we will worship him again. So he was made to suffer this punishment because he was the cause of this great battle of Kurukshetra. So these are ignorant people. We have to understand here Krishna declares, Namam karmani limpanti. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of the activities. And one who knows that Krishna is not at all affected by any activities, he also does not get affected by activities, he becomes liberated. Iti mam yobhijanati karma bhirna sabadhyate. He is also not bound by any actions and karma, he is liberated. Anybody who can understand Krishna is liberated, he also will become liberated. Evam gyatva kritam karma purvairapi mumukshubhihi kuru karma eva tasmatvam purvai purvataram kritam. All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding and so attained liberation. Therefore, as the ancients, you should perform your duty in this divine consciousness. Kim karma kim akarmeti kavyopyatra mohitaah tatte karma pravakshyami yajgyatva mokshase shubhat. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all sins. Karmano hi api bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. So this is very important. Krishna is explaining, Karmano hi api bodhavyam cha vikarmana. There are three kinds of actions. Karma means acting according to the scriptural injunctions. Vikarma means breaking the scriptural injunctions, acting whimsically, just like now government has so many rules and regulations. If you break them, that is called sin, crime. That technically, as per Vedic knowledge, is called vikarma. And then there is third category of action, which is called akarma. Akarma means activity on spiritual platform, which does not, even though person is acting, but it will not result in material reaction. It will bring spiritual results. Karmanya karma yav pashyed akarmani cha karmayah sabuddhiman manushyeshu sayukta kritsna karma krit. So unfortunately people do not know this. Krishna is telling it is very complex to understand. Gahana karmano gatihi. What is karma? What is akarma? People do not know that if somebody jumps the speed limit, he will be fined for it. But it is his duty to know what is the speed limit on this road. In a similar fashion, there are various laws. Because we do not know, we break the laws and we suffer. Breaking the laws of nature is the only cause of all our sufferings. So Krishna tells it is very important to know what is karma, what is vikarma. And most important, it is to understand what is akarma. Akarma means inaction. And here, very beautiful shloka this is, Krishna mentions, one who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. So Krishna explains who is the person who is actually liberated, one who can see inaction in action. So the materialist may be performing so many activities, but a wise person, a transcendentalist, understands it is actually inaction. Inaction means this activity is not going to have any result. If a person works very hard to make a sand castle, that is waste of time, because that castle is not going to remain. One strong wave will come that will be washed away, and all that effort is null and void, finished. In a similar fashion, everybody is working very hard, taking great stress, tension, anxiety, and as soon as they leave the body, their name, fame, education, family members, everybody is gone. So all those activities, so much hard work for caring for the family members, seeing that they are always satisfied, always happy, it is useless waste of time if we do not take them to spiritual emancipation, because they will again suffer. They will die in the next life, they will suffer. So you worked so hard to take care of few people, your near and dear ones, and yourself. We will also suffer if we come again in this material world. Our families will suffer. Name, fame, education, everything is gone. So thus it is called inaction. A spiritualist sees no worth in material activities performed for temporary sense enjoyment. Is it not useless waste of time? Because of lack of knowledge of this eternal aspect of ourselves, we are engaged in this inaction. So Krishna tells we have to see inaction in action. People are very, very active, one should see, just like monkeys are very active, jumping from one tree to another. Dogs are active, scavenging from this dustbin to another. No worthy activity. And a devotee, a spiritualist also can be doing activity. And his activities also are not to be seen any activity. They are also called inaction. Why? Because they don't produce any material reaction. So it is as good as not acting at all. Because a devotee does all the activities only under direction of Krishna, his activities on spiritual platform, conducted by spiritual energy. Although devotee may also be doing a business, earning money, just like Arjuna is also acting like a warrior of Rajoguna mode of passion, fighting so that he can rule the kingdom. But Arjuna is not conducted by material energy, but directly by Krishna's instruction, spiritual energy. So thus, although Arjuna is doing activity, apparently in the mode of passion, killing, fighting wars, but actually he will not get any reaction of the mode of passion. So thus, this is called seeing inaction in action. At the same time, a wise man also sees action in inaction. Sometimes a materialist does not act, just like Arjuna did not want to act, did not want to fight, but there is action in this inaction. What is action? As Krishna explained, inaction is sin. By not doing your activity, you are doing breach of the laws of nature and you are creating material punishment for yourself. Thus, because you are creating a material reaction, suffering, inactivity is also considered activity because it is producing material result. And sometimes a devotee can also be inactive. Devotee can be simply chanting entire day, he can be simply worshipping the deity or meditating upon the form of Krishna. Apparently he is not doing anything, but he is absorbed in Samadhi, Krishna's service. So even though devotee is not acting, one should see that this is real activity because he is making spiritual advancement. Simply sitting and observing the form of Krishna in the temple or within the heart, thinking about Krishna, reading Bhagwat Gita, contemplating upon Krishna's forms, activities, or simply chanting and hearing his names 24 hours a day. Some devotees do that. And one can tell, oh, he's inactive, sitting entire day doing nothing. No, he is doing real activity because he's advancing, he's creating his spiritual life. So this is the vision. Action in inaction and seeing inaction in action. One who sees like this, he is a wise man. So one should learn to see in this way. Yasya sarve samarambhaah काम संकल्प वर्जिताः ज्ञानाग्नि दग्ध कर्माणं तम आहुः पंडितं बुधाः. So Krishna gives further description of one who is free from all the actions and reactions of this material world, liberated personality. One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every act is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be a worker whose fruitive action is burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge. He does not do any activity for sense gratification, kama sankalpa varjitaha. He does all the activities only for the pleasure of Krishna's senses. We do all activities for our sense enjoyment. So thus we are conditioned living entities. Liberated means he will only desire Krishna's enjoyment. Kama sankalpa varjitaha. Tyaktva karma phala sangam nitya tripto nirashrayaha karmanyabhipravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. Karma phala sangam, again Krishna is repeating many times over and over. Karma phal asangam, one should not be attached to the results of one's activities because they should be offered in sacrifice for the pleasure of Krishna. We are very much attached, we just are result oriented, we want to enjoy the result. This is wrong. This is not the right activity described by Krishna. One should be detached from the results to offer it to Krishna. Nitya tripta, always satisfied. We are taught to always remain dissatisfied. We think when we are dissatisfied, then we will make material advancement and that is something very good. That is inaction Krishna described in previous verse. So one should be nitya tripta, one should always be satisfied in all circumstances. This is the art that we have to learn. And nirashrayaha, one should be completely independent. So in Vedic culture, anybody who takes education, they were nirashrayaha. They were not taking shelter of anybody else for maintenance. Only those people who were not going to schools, they would undertake jobs. So that is why it is told today's education system, it is following the footsteps of dogs. A dog, if it is not having a master, its life is very miserable. People throw stones, anybody just chases it for no reason, and he does not get food, although all the species get food. Dog's destiny is so that unless he gets a master, it is very difficult. It will always cry, that is why they howl in the night, because they are very hungry. Anytime you give food to the street dog, they are always eager to take it. So unless they have master, dog's life is very miserable. Similarly, today's education system makes us like dogs, unfortunately. That is what the Vedas are telling. So after clearing all the big examinations, if a person does not get job, then their life is useless, all education is useless. But Vedic education means anybody who has passed out from Vedic school, they will never take up jobs. The first class pass outs are Brahmanas. Brahmana means Patan, Patan, Yajan, Yajan. He is so much Nitya Tripta, so much satisfied, so much dependent on God, so much senses are controlled that he does not want to take any money even for tomorrow. He just needs that day's maintenance. And then Kshatriyas, they are also not taking up any jobs. Brahmana will simply educate free of cost, and whatever alms the students will bring, he will be satisfied with that. And if there is excess, he will give charity. He does not take any money for education. So he is not doing any job. Kshatriya also does not do any job. They give protection, administration, and they collect taxes. Vaishyas do not do any jobs. They will cultivate their own field. Whatever they require, they will produce in the field. They are also independent. Only Shudras, they do jobs. They are dependent on other living entities. So education means Ya Vidya Sa Vimuktaye, that which liberates you, that is education. What is this education? That you are very eager to take up jobs. Human life is meant for liberation, always remaining satisfied, becoming independent. These are the features of transcendentalists. Nirashiryat chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilbisham. Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions. So a very important word used here is Shariram Kevalam Karma. Nirashir. He does not want to enjoy the results of activities, and he is having perfect control of Chittatma, mind and senses. And Shariram Kevalam Karma. He lives, works only to keep the body and soul together. Shariram Kevalam Karma. And actually, if we go for even gross material enjoyment any more than keeping body and soul together, it only results in misery. The example given is that of salt. Salt is required, a bit of it, a pinch of it, to make the meal tasty. Now if somebody applies logic, if a pinch of salt makes the dish so tasty, let me put entire jar of salt into it and the dish will become much more tastier. That is foolishness, that is not logic. So people think, I have just smoked one cigarette, let me smoke some more and I'll be happy. I drank just a peg, let me have little more, I'll be more happy. I've had little sex, if I have unlimited sex, I'll be unlimitedly happy. This is as foolish as thinking, if a pinch of salt makes food so tasty, let me put entire jar of salt. So sense gratification any more than a pinch of it, which is required for keeping body and soul together, it brings only misery in one's life. It brings addiction to our life. The thirst for sense enjoyment always keeps on increasing, as we have discussed, and the person becomes frustrated. So this is very important, please understand. Thus a wise person lives only for keeping body and soul together. And do you find people in today's civilization who work just for keeping body and soul together? Entire civilization is lusty and greedy. Where is the question of satisfaction when the heart is full of lust and greed? These are the real problems of life. All the other problems are the expansions of lust and greed, the result of lusty and greedy activity. So there is no question of less food. There is no question of overpopulation. These are foolishness of ignorant souls. We are so much lusty to drink tea, coffee and smoke marijuana and so many things. If we can control our senses, just keep body and soul. Will the soul leave the body if we don't drink tea and coffee? Then why don't we grow cash crops? So much land is there which is occupied by growing weeds, by growing other cash crops, tea, coffee, etc. And grains can be cultivated in that. And there would be no food problem at all. But no, we want to enjoy. And thus in all this artificial produce, then we tell there is no land for cultivating food. So actually the real problems of life are only lust and greed. All the problems are the results of such lusty activities. So Shariram, we should present this ideal in the society. So if we scientifically follow the principles of Bhagavad Gita, we will be able to come to that platform where we work only for keeping body and soul together. Tyakta sarva parigraha. And there would be more result from our activity, but parigraha, one is free from all the possessions. One understands everything belongs to Krishna. So just one maintains body and soul together and offers the results to Krishna. Yadrichhalabh santushto dvandvatito vimatsaraha samasiddhava siddhaucha kritvapi na nibadhyate. He who is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady both in success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. Important word used here is dvandvatito, yadrichhalabh santushto. One is satisfied with whatever comes, whatever gains one gets of its own accord. We are not satisfied with that. We want more and more. Why? Because we are in dvandva. We think something is good, another thing is bad. So heat is good, Cold is bad or cold is good, heat is bad. One is free from this. Profit is good, loss is bad. So for spiritual advancement, both things are good. If one gets profit, one uses for Krishna. If one gets loss, one gets mental or physical miseries, then these miseries are also very important. Miseries purify the heart. And as we discussed, it brings one to the platform of spiritual knowledge, brings detachment from this material world. So miseries are also important for purification of heart. Lust and greed goes away in the miseries. So thus, one should understand what is the purpose of this life. The purpose of this life is getting liberation from this material entanglement. So if you get profit, you use for Krishna. If you get loss, if there is any physical mental misery, that is anyway purification. So why a person should take anxiety for profit and loss? That is Krishna's intention here. So remain satisfied with the gains which come of its own accord as per destiny. And Vimatsaraha, a transcendentalist is free from Matsaraha, means enviousness. Today whole society is based on enviousness. And that is what results in competition. Suppose there is only one bread left in the house and two brothers, they want to have it. Will they fight for it? If there is actually love between the brothers, one would sacrifice. Oh, you please take, I am not hungry. You please have it. If the child wants to be fed and mother is also hungry, mother will choose to remain hungry to satiate the hunger of the child, because mother is not envious of the child. So thus there is no competition, no fight for resources when there is love. But now our heart burns if our friends or relatives, they advance more than us. So just to maintain this status quo in the society, there is so much of pressure. Mainly pressure, stress and anxiety is only because of this enviousness. Oh, others are progressing more than me. I also have to work hard. I am not able to produce result. Oh, if you really love them, you should try to let them perform better than you. But no, there is no love, there is envy. So a pure devotee, a transcendentalist, he is free from envy. Sama siddha va siddhaucha. Thus he is equipoised in success and failure. So he does not get disturbed. Others have gone more than me, I have failed. No. They are all part and parcels of Krishna. If they are happy, I am satisfied. Gata sangasya muktasya jnanavasthita chetasaha yajñayacharatah karma samagram praviliyate. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. Brahmarpanam brahmahavir brahmagnau brahmanahutam brahmaeva tena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. Here Krishna is giving the sum and substance of Krishna consciousness. Brahmarpanam brahmahavir brahmagnau brahmanahutam. So Krishna has explained work should be done only for sacrifice. When you sacrifice, there is ahuti, there is offering, there is havihi, there is butter to be offered, there is agni, fire in which the offering has to be made. So when a person is always absorbed in Krishna, Brahma karma samadhina. Samadhi means when the consciousness is completely fixed. When a person is completely Krishna conscious, then all his activities, his object of offering, and the result of that yajna, everything is completely spiritual. This kind of yajna is expected of Arjuna. Manmaya mam upashrita. When a person has taken shelter of Krishna, is absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, then any action that he does and the result of that activity, the performer of that activity everything is Brahm, everything is completely spiritual. But if a person is not completely absorbed in Krishna, then even though he may do yajna, his result may not be spiritual. And what is that? Krishna explains. Daivam eva pare yajnam yoginah paryupasate brahmagnava pare yajnam yajnena evopajuhvati. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahma. Now, various kinds of yajnas. Krishna has established you should do work only for yajna, only for sacrifice, and there are various kinds of sacrifices mentioned as per the desires and the capacity of the individual living entities. Some of them, some yogis, they offer the yajna to the devatas, demigods. Others offer yajna in the Supreme Brahma. So here the worshipper of demigods and the impersonalists are explained. Offering yourself in the fire of Supreme Brahma means a person loses his identity. That is the aim of the impersonalist. He does not want to exist anymore. He just wants to merge into the total existence, Brahma Jyoti. So Brahm is considered the fire and individual identity is considered the offering. One loses one's individual identity. One does not lose actually, but one remains there as a small particle of atom. But the sensual activities are stopped, so in that sense it is losing one's identity. Shrotraadinindriyanyanye sanyamagnishu juhvati Shabdadin Vishayananya Indriyagnishu Juhvati. Some of them sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of controlled mind, and others sacrifice the objects of the senses such as the sound in the fire of sacrifice. So Shravanam Kirtanam, the process is explained here. If one hears the Vedic mantras very nicely, this is also sacrifice. You could have heard so many things. Your attention could have gone to so many places, but this is called sacrifice. Similarly, you could have spoken so many things, produced so many results, but when you chant the names of God, this is also considered sacrifice. Sacrifice of sound, sacrifice of hearing. These are various yajnas. Sarvani indriya karmani prana karmani chapare atma sanyama yogagnav Juhvati Jnana Deepite. Those who are interested in self-realization in terms of mind and sense control offer the functions of all the senses as well as the vital force, breath, as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind. So here the yoga system of Patanjali is explained, how all the sensual activities are stopped and a person tries to merge in the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dravya yagyas tapo yagya yoga yagyas tatha pare swadhyaya jnana yagyascha yataya samshita vrataha. There are others who, enlightened by sacrificing their material possessions in severe austerities, take strict vows and practice the yoga of eightfold mysticism, and others study the Vedas for the advancement of transcendental knowledge. Dravya yajna, yoga yajna, swadhyaya yajna, tapo yajna, various yajnas are explained here. Dravya yajna means general charitable activities, opening education institutes, schools, hospitals, dormitories, or offering the possessions in the altar of fire sacrifice. Offering of material possessions is called Dravya Yajna. Dravya means material substance, riches, opulence, wealth. Then there is Tapo Yajna. Some people take voluntarily hardships, austerities like following Chaturmasya when it rains in the 4 months. Many people, it is recommended in the Vedas that you should not shave, and many people follow it. They just don't use their hands for eating. They take food directly from the floor and don't eat anything for sense gratification, and many strict vows, penances they take for promotion to heavenly planets. There are others who are doing Swadhyay Yagya, who are engaged in studying of the scriptures. That is also Yagya, sacrifice. So like this, there are various kinds of sacrifices. Apane juhvati pranam prane panam tatha pare pranapana gati rudva pranayam parayana apare niyatahara pranan praneshu juhvati. And there are even others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, and they practice stopping the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Some of them, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. So here the pranayam process is recommended, which is done in the beginning of Hatha Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. Sarvepyete yagyavido yagyakshapita kalmashah yagyashishtamrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reaction, and having tasted the nectar of the remnants of such sacrifice, they go to the supreme eternal atmosphere. The very important word used here is Yagyavido. One who knows the meaning of the sacrifice, then they go to eternal atmosphere. So if one is doing any kind of activity without knowing the meaning behind it, it will not fetch the desired result. So thus the knowledge is very, very important. Even a person who is doing Ashtanga Yoga, although it is not recommended for Kali Yoga, but Lord Kapil explains Swadhyay is very important element. One must have knowledge. In knowledge, when a person does Yagya, one who knows the meaning behind all these sacrifices, he will go to eternal atmosphere. Others, they have to wait unless they come to platform of knowledge. Nayam lokosti ayagyasya kutonya kuru sattama. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? So when we become perplexed why we are not happy, for health we are looking back to the Vedas. Now we should look back to the Vedas for the reason of happiness also. We are opening centers of excellence in top institutes of our country for happiness. Happiness is a subject being introduced in schools. People want to figure out how to become happy. Krishna is explained here, very simple. One who does not do sacrifice, he cannot be happy in this life or next. Sacrifice is must for happiness. Evam bahuvidha yajna vitata brahmano mukhe karmajan vidhitan sarvan evam gyatva vimokshase. All these different types of sacrifices are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. Shreyan dravyamayad yajna jnana yajna parantapa sarvam karma khilam partha jnane parisamapyate. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice of knowledge is greater than the sacrifice of material possessions. O son of Pritha, after all, the sacrifice of work culminates in transcendental knowledge. So here it is very clear, Krishna is telling. Many people are enamored by the gorgeous Vedic ceremonies. Oh yes, today I participated in Yajna. It was beautiful, chanting of so many mantras and people are putting so many things into fire, and it was divine. But much more divine than that is, Krishna is telling very clearly here, Jnana Yajna Parantapa, Shreyan, better than Dravya Yajna, sacrificing the material possessions on the altar of fire, is Jnana Yajna, sacrifice for cultivating knowledge. Thus, this Bhagavad Gita which we are discussing here, it is much more powerful yajna in terms of Lord Krishna. So many yajnas we can sit in, but whose life is changed by sitting in such yajnas? But if we hear sincerely the message of God in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam and other scriptures, then our life changes for good. So all the sacrifice of material possessions, charity and all, ultimately leads one to, or if properly done, should lead one to the platform of knowledge. So please do not underestimate the reading of scriptures and discussion as ordinary thing. It is a yajna and more powerful yajna. The result of all sacrifice is to reach platform of knowledge. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam Jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. This is very, very important verse. Krishna has told sacrifice of knowledge is better than that of material possessions. Now, sacrifice of knowledge, please don't get confused. I have to sacrifice, give up my knowledge. No. Sacrifice of knowledge means sacrifice done to get knowledge. So, sacrifice done to get knowledge. One can get knowledge either by hearing or by reading or by discussing. All these are sacrifices of knowledge. It is greater than sacrifice of giving up your wealth. And how does a person get this knowledge? I will get this knowledge simply by reading, or any formal procedure has to be followed. So here 3-step formula is given. So please do not think simply by reading one will understand this. For this one needs to approach Tattvadarshi. And how one has to approach Tattvadarshi? Tadvidhi, to know the science of absolute truth. One has to first of all be very, very humble. Pranipatena, prakashta rupena nipat. That means when a person falls like rod before spiritual master, this is the symbolic representation of being humble. That I am completely surrendered. Whatever you tell, I will follow. So this humility is required. Some people, they challenge the spiritual master. That is not the way here. So humility, Lord Jesus also told, kingdom of God is meant for meek and humble. So one has to be very, very humble. And sevaya, one has to render service. If we approach a saintly person, first inquiry should not be directly any spiritual question. First inquiry ideally should be, how can I render service to you, sevaya? This was the etiquette. Whenever even a king would come to meet the sages, first he will ask for any person, can you please tell me how can I serve you? Please engage me in your service and do seva. And by doing seva, we become qualified to receive and assimilate that knowledge. Otherwise, even if the transcendental knowledge is spoken without seva, we will not be able to digest or realize, understand that. So seva is very, very important. It is told, Ata Shri Krishna Naam Adi Na Bhaved Grahayam Indriyaye. Shri Krishna Naam Adi, the name, form, qualities of Lord Krishna are divyam, transcendental. Na Grahayam Indriyaye, by our senses, by our mind, we can neither see, hear, nor can understand about Krishna. Sevan Mukhehi Jivvadav, but if a person engages in service of Krishna, which begins with tongue, chanting his names, speaking his signs, then Swayam Ev Sfuratyadaha, Lord himself becomes so pleased that he manifests his knowledge, his form, and a person is able to see, hear, and understand Krishna. So seva is very important. So every word has to be noted very, very carefully, scrutinizingly. Pranipaten pariprashnen sevaya. Chapter 4, verse number 34. Please mark it very carefully. In this way, we will be able to understand Bhagavad Gita. So we should approach a guru, a person who knows this knowledge, and be very, very humble. And we have to render service, and then we don't just have to always remain humble and keep on rendering service without any inquiry. Ultimately, we approach Guru to get knowledge. So pariprashnena, inquiry is also important. One should be eager to understand knowledge. But in eagerness, one should not ask absurd questions. One should not become impudent. And one should not try to simply ask without doing any seva. No. So blind faith is not recommended. Pariprashnena is very important. Some people tell, no, scriptures are dogmatic. They are not at all dogmatic. Here you see pariprashnena, inquiry, this word is used. Again, after speaking entire Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Krishna will tell, Vimrishyetad asheshena. You completely deliberate upon it, what message I have spoken to you. And then yatechasi tata kuru. Then whatever you desire, you do. So spiritual life is not a brainwash, it is not a dogma. In actual spiritual life, you are encouraged to ask questions, just like Arjuna is asking here and Krishna is replying. Rather, all the Vedic knowledge is basically the discussion between the spiritual master and disciple. In different time, in different places, different planets, different circumstances. It's all discussion. So inquiry is very important. Blind faith and absurd inquiries, both are rejected here. One should inquire and one should render service, be humble. Then, if a person follows 3 steps of submission, seva and inquiry, then Tattva Darshina, those who have seen the truth, they will reveal this knowledge to you. So please try to follow these 3 steps. Yajgyatva na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutanya sheshani Drakshasyatmanyatho mai. So what is this knowledge which Tattvadarshi will give? And when you have thus learned the truth, you will know that all living beings are but part of me, and that they are in me and are mine. Yajgyatva na punarmoham. If a person gets this knowledge, then he cannot fall back into illusion. What is that knowledge? When we understand Drakshyasi Atmani Athomai. All the living entities are situated on Krishna. They are always connected to Krishna. And Krishna tells Athomai and are mine. They belong to me. So one should have this knowledge of spiritual life. Just understanding I am not the body is not sufficient. One should understand that we are all part and parcels of Krishna. This is very important. Leaf is part and parcel of tree. If a leaf demands direct water, can the leaf ever be nourished? No. So practically, we have to apply in our life, instead of planning our direct enjoyment, we should plan how to make Krishna happy. And then we will see we are happy and the people who are connected to us, they are also happy. So this is the relationship between us and Krishna. We are part and parcel of Krishna. We are situated on the energy of Krishna and we are always connected to Krishna. In illusion, I am thinking God does not exist or God is separate, I am separate. Just like a leaf is always connected to the tree, leaf is part and parcel of tree. In a similar fashion, we are part and parcel of Krishna. One has to come to this knowledge. Api chedasi papebhya sarvebhya papakrittamaha Sarvam jnana plavenaiva vrajinam santarishyasi. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. So when a person has knowledge, then he can solve miseries of life. If we do not have knowledge, we can understand. If we do not know science, dog does not study science. His ancestors were suffering from the same problem from which he is suffering today. He cannot make a house dwelling for himself. He cannot make a kitchen for cooking for himself, but we can do because we know the sciences. But unless we understand science of God, there won't be perfect solution of problems of life. We'll be shifting problem or creating more problems. So knowledge is important. When we have transcendental knowledge, this knowledge that all the living entities are parts and parcels of God, when we realize, all miseries are solved. Yathaidansi samsiddhognir bhasmasat kurute Arjuna Jnanagni sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. As the blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindati. In this world there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has achieved this enjoys the self within himself in due course of time. As you wake up from a dream, all the problems of dream are immediately resolved. Thus, by this transcendental knowledge which is revealed by spiritual master from within the heart, then immediately we understand I am not the body. Then no problems of body affect me. And if I am able to revive my relationship with Krishna, as one thinks of one's beloved, heart is full of happiness. When the relationship with Krishna, its memory is revived, one is always rejoicing, love of God within himself. This situation is explained in this verse. Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatparas sanyatendriyaha jnanam labdhva param shantim achirenadhigacchati. A faithful man who is absorbed in transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. So here the word used here, very important, the first word is Shraddhavan. A person who is faithful, he only gets knowledge. How? By controlling the senses. Who is absorbed in transcendental knowledge, he attains supreme spiritual peace. So sense control is very important. All these various yajnas which are described here, all are meant to control the senses. Control the senses and hear about Krishna, control the senses, speak about Krishna, control senses and offer the resources for sense enjoyment in charity. Control your senses and cultivate knowledge. Control your senses, hold your breath, sit in one place, stop all the activities of sense enjoyment. So all the yajnas are meant for sense control. So a person who is faithful in the scriptures, who controls the senses, he very quickly is able to attain peace. But one who is not faithful, his destiny is very dark, that Krishna explains here. Agyascha shraddadhanascha sanshayatma vinashyati nayam lokosti na paro na sukham sanshayatmanaha. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. For the doubting soul there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So Krishna is telling, Agyaha, those who are ignorant, because of ignorance we have doubt. If a person is sick, he will always be doubtful about the taste of food because everything is bitter for a sick man. So in a similar fashion, those who are sick, all of us with bodily concept of life thinking, I am this body, we are always doubtful about the existence of spirit, existence of supreme spirit. We are doubtful about so many things because of this disease of bodily concept. So those who always remain doubtful, Krishna is telling, Nayam loko nasti paro na sukham. For him there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. Such a person always lives in misery. Person is telling, come sit on this bus, I will rescue you from this danger. No, you will kidnap me, you will take my money. What will happen? If a person doubts on a genuine person who is willing to rescue, then what can be done? So Krishna is God, He is going to rescue us, giving all happiness. But if we doubt on this knowledge, then Krishna tells, now we will suffer. All the laws of nature are mentioned. If we doubt, we don't follow, we will suffer now, and in the future also we will suffer. So Krishna tells how to then come out of this doubt. That solution also Krishna is giving. Yoga sanyasta karmanam jnana sanchinna sanshayam atmavantam na karmani nibadnanti dhananjaya. Therefore, one who has renounced the fruits of his action, whose doubts are destroyed by transcendental knowledge, and who is situated firmly in the self, is not bound by works, O conqueror of the riches. Tasmadagyan sambhutam ritstham jnanasinatmanah chitvainam sanshayam yogam atishtottishta bharata. Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharat, stand and fight. So doubts can be destroyed by transcendental knowledge. And how to get transcendental knowledge? Verse number 34. Pranipaten pariprashnena sevaya. As if we have doubts, doubts are natural. If we try to study any subject, we approach a teacher to solve doubts, isn't it? When it's beyond our capacity to understand. So we have to approach a teacher. So doubts are natural. Any subject we study, we get doubts. And how do we come out of it? We approach a teacher. In a similar fashion, unless we are eager to approach a teacher, then doubts will always remain. So in order to come out of this doubt and solve the miseries of this life and the next, it is important that we approach a teacher. And if we are very, very eager, Krishna will guide from the heart. Krishna will guide us if we want to become atheist, and if we want to understand, it makes some sense. Let me try to understand this more. This little Shraddha if we have, and if you develop eagerness, let me find an expert spiritual master who can guide me. Then Krishna will guide from the heart. But one should be sincere without any material motive to get spiritual knowledge. Then Krishna will guide to right spiritual master. And then we have to follow simple rules and regulations. If a person is sick, in order to come out of doubt about the taste of food, one has to follow the advice of doctor. Then he can taste food. Oh, this is sour, this is sweet, this is tasty, this is not cooked nicely. Then he can tell the exact taste of the dishes. Similarly, when we follow the instructions of spiritual master and engage in service of Krishna. So engaging in service, as it is mentioned here in this verse, taking shelter of Krishna and chanting the names of Krishna. By this, faith is established. Krishna reveals himself, doubts are destroyed. So one should learn the art of serving Krishna and chanting his names under the guidance of spiritual master. Then, when a person is not having any doubts, a person is on the liberated platform. Then even though a person is acting like a warrior, as Arjuna is supposed to do, he will not be entangled in karma. So the conclusion of this chapter is, we are all entangled here in this material world because of the tendency to act. The same tendency to act can make us liberated from all the entanglement of activities. Example given is just like if one is suffering from intake of excess milk, then the same milk taken in another transformation of curd or yogurt can help one relieve the indigestion caused by milk only. So milk only taken in another format removes the sufferings created by the milk. So the actions only directed by the spiritual master can help one get relief from the material actions done in the past life or in this life. And this scientific way of performing actions under guidance of spiritual master for the pleasure of Krishna are called yajna. So Arjuna is told, don't think by not acting you will become free from karma, but you have to act for yajna, for sacrifice, for the pleasure of Krishna. Then same actions will become your cause of liberation. Actions bind us, actions liberate us. So one has to know this science very nicely. What is action which is meant for liberation, akarma? What is vikarma, acting against spiritual injunctions? What is karma, fruitive activities? So this is very beautifully explained by Lord Krishna here. So the aim is ultimately to be established in akarma. Do the actions which do not bring any material reactions. So this description again seems to be confusing Arjuna, and he puts forth another question for more clarity. And what is that? We will see in the next chapter. Thank you so much for hearing. Hare Krishna.